In this videocast, Micheal Hamelin, Chief Security Architect of Tufin Technologies, a company that focuses on the correct configuration and management of firewalls, will discuss the problems and issues of firewalls. Micheal, for a long time people have felt that the firewall is dead. Can we start here?
No, it's funny. We recently had an article. We said the death of the firewall has been overrated. In some instances, there's been a lot of press about tearing down the firewalls. I think the Jericho forum said tear them down, they're useless. In some areas they are. When you look at web applications, if your firewall's not doing very deep inspection, your firewall's not doing anything for web applications. In other aspects of just looking at control of your network, the firewalls actually stop configuration errors from exposing more risk. If you take down firewalls and think about not using them because they're useless, they're hard to configure, they're not there, you have to trust that every one of your network admins does their job perfectly and never turns on an extra port, never installs software that's not verified. So the firewall actually becomes a safety net for those situations. But what we focus on is actually taking the firewall configuration and giving you a way to analytically analyze it. When you get thousands of rules on hundreds of firewalls, it is more than a single admin or a team of admins can manually do by hand. So we give you ways to write a generic compliance policy that says, I should have no shell access from the internet LAN in a DMZ, for instance, so no direct communications like telnets and SSH, or FTP should be allowed to hit all of these critical servers. And regardless of the technology, we'll enforce that across all the firewall technologies. So all the changes that happen, you'll know right away whether you stayed compliant or not compliant without having to get into the details of understanding, was that a Cisco ACL that was modified? Was that a Juniper policy, a checkpoint rule? You can just work at a higher level compliance of none of these protocols should land on these servers.
Yes, and that's another problem that enterprises have, larger enterprises, where they haven't standardized on a firewall. So as you've just pointed out, I've got, I think you mentioned 4 different ones there.
Right.
How do I, manage all of these different systems?
That's part of kind of this legacy. I think at one point one of the analyst firms said you were better off to run 2 firewall vendors, so if there was an exploited one, you wouldn't be impacted. As I remember, those were all retracted, but most organizations have kept it, in some cases, as almost part of a diversification of their IT risk portfolio, almost like you would your stock funds, right? Don't just buy one, don't buy Visa stock, maybe buy a little Visa and a little MasterCard. So organizations have said, well, maybe my firewall vendor might go out of business, or maybe won't do what I want, so I'll use 2 or 3 firewall vendors. And it's stuck. They've done it. They've grown these enormous farms of multiple vendor firewalls. So in order to manage that, you have to have a console that can bring that risk view into one place. And that's what the Tufin Secure Track is all about, is give you one place to view it. We'll visualize it so it looks like the right policy. It would be meaningless to show you a Juniper that looked like a checkpoint policy. We'll show it to you in a native format. We'll also let you see your changes in real time and see your risk of those changes in real time. So you can assign risks and compliance policies that match your security standard. Because you don't want to follow checklists for security. You want to actually, because most of the checklists are security, right? And most of the firewall vendors implement everything so differently. You want to understand what your risk is and be able to run that against what you think is security.